Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Commander video. This time we're going to be talking about end of the year awards for the entire year of 2021. Just to get things established here, we have the very first set of the year, which was Kaldheim, and of course the Kaldheim Commander set, Strix Haven and the Commander 2021 set, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms Commander set, Modern Horizons 2, Midnight Hunt and the Midnight Hunt Commander, as well as Crimson Vow and the Crimson Vow Commander. This is all talking about brand new cards, so no reprints and none of that stuff. As always, if you have not, please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to become a member, that's another way that you can support Commander Void. Planning on coming out with a few of these end of the year videos. Different categories for this one, we're going to be talking about the best removal. So out of all the new cards, which was the best for Commander? Now, like a typical awards show, I have several cards that could be nominated, and I'm also going to be factoring your opinion in as well. I ran a poll earlier, it got almost 6,000 votes. I think that's a decent enough sample size to gauge your interest. So let's start it off with the very first set, and the removal that we got from this set in Kaldheim wasn't very strong, but we got something that's necessary for blue, and that is the ability to deal with artifacts outside of just bouncing them. Ravenform is a decent common. Out of all the commons, I think this probably has the most potential to see long-term play in Commander. However, it's pretty limited to mono blue. If you have other ways of dealing with artifacts, which most other colors do, you're likely to cut Ravenform. It's one of the first cards you would cut. That being said, you do have a way of making it cheaper. It's sorcery speed, so you need that with Foretell. It's pretty much considered because it's the only blue removal that we really got this year that's worth much of anything. And then afterwards, we received Strix Haven. And Strix Haven gave us some pretty solid inclusions. We're going to start it off here with the card Vanishing Verse. The standard for black and white removal now is exiling removal for only 2 mana. D-Spark is a favorite now, and I think Vanishing Verse is very close. It does have the limitation on only being able to target monocolored permanents. That being said, that's a lot of cards, a lot of powerful cards that you can deal with. So keep an eye out on it. It is in that competitive range for mana costs. If you're looking to keep your mana curve lower, you typically want instant speed removal to be 2 or 1. And then we also have Culling Ritual, talking about removal that could also see competitive play. You destroy each non-land permanent with a mana value 2 or less, which is really why it's competitive playable. You get rid of so many mana dorks, so many mana rocks, you set your opponent's back several turns. You destroy your own too, but you're also able to get a ton of mana back. So if you play this, it's pretty much time to go off. It is the kind of card that could win you the game. If we're talking about casual Commander, I don't really think it has much of a home, but I will always think highly of a card if it has competitive potential. Adventures in the Forgotten Realms gave us some pretty interesting cards, but Hurl Through Hell is probably the craziest one. It is exiling creature removal at the very least. The upside here is that it's not just removal, so you're going to see that with other cards here. I will also consider if there's an upside in addition to the removal. Being able to cast the creature is brilliant. It synergizes with a lot of other cards from that set that benefit off of casting from exile. Downside though is that most decks, if they're looking to get rid of creatures, and that's what they're prioritizing, 4 mana is a little bit too expensive, but still crazy enough for me to nominate it. In Modern Horizons 2, which is no doubt going to offer more competitive playable cards, we received Damn, which is, for decks that can play both black and white, a clear improvement over Damnation and Wrath of God. Because if you want to overload it, you have Wrath of God. If not, you have a 2 mana removal spell sorcery speed that will keep your mana curve lower. So being a clear improvement over both of those board wipes, again, if you are able to play black and white, that's what it is. You can substitute this card for either one of those, which I still believe it's cheaper than both. So it's here in the video, we're talking about it because we already know its potential. We've already played with these cards before, they're great. You prevent regeneration, it's so underrated. We don't have to guess where it belongs, we know exactly what to expect. And then Midnight Hunt, we received a few cards, just a few. Or maybe not a few, we got some pretty good ones here. We got the Meat Hook Massacre is the big one. The big mythic, one of the chase cards I would say. Enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, which is awesome, but that's more in addition to what else it does. So not only is it good removal, but you also get an upside here. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain a life. It really makes dealing with your board a nightmare, because whenever they kill off your creatures, they're going to lose a life. I think it does have situational strength because of that. I'm not one of those people who's like, if it's bad in one game, therefore the card's never good, or if you can envision a scenario in which this card doesn't do much, it's bad. No, if it's good in most situations, like if you have a board, if you need a board wipe, This is going to put in a lot of work, it's going to sit on the field and have a lasting impact. We don't really see that out of a lot of cards. Like, we have Pernicious Deed, which is an enchantment. That might be the closest comparison, but that goes away. With this, you get to leave it out there and gain some life and force your opponents to lose life. We have another black removal spell from Midnight Hunt in Infernal Grasp, which is honestly one of the best versions of Terror that we've seen to date. At the cost of only losing 2 life, you're able to destroy target creature. No restriction on what type of creature you get to destroy, the only drawback is just losing the life. So for mono black decks, I think it's going to be an auto-include for many people. And then we have probably one of my favorites from this year, Vanquish the Horde. It's what you liked about Blasphemous Act, but in white. Which is to say, we didn't really need a lot of good white board wipes. We're already stacked. Vanquish the Horde is the rich getting richer. So not only do you get another creature board wipe, but in many Commander games, this is only going to cost you 2 white mana. Not a lot of competitive potential for this card because you want to keep your mana curve lower, but in casual Commander, this is going to wreck. Every reason why Blasphemous Act is a good card, here we have it with Vanquish the Horde. It's going to solve most problems. And an honorable mention here, going back to Commander 2021. Just because I think when people talk about removal, it's mostly instants and sorceries. It's not as often enchantments like Meathook Massacre. But here we have Angel of the Ruins, and this card is essentially Return to Dust or Crush Contraband on an ETB. Everything about this creature is amazing. People get bent out of shape over the CMC of certain cards that I recommend, but it's 7 mana. You read what it does, you know it has potential. It's not a matter of if, it's when. This card is going to blow up and everyone's going to play it. It's under $2. It just does so much. If you're able to break it, it's one of those cards that will lock your opponents out. If they're playing artifact strategies, you've ended their game. If they're playing enchantment strategies, you've ended their game. If you're playing Blink, you know you've ended their game. If you're playing an artifact, reanimation deck, anything like that, you've ended their game. The plane cycling means you get to throw it into cycling decks. What do you want out of it? It's going to give it to you. It's worth every bit of that 7 mana. But when considering my recent poll that I did that got almost 6,000 votes, the overwhelming majority of you, I mean it's not even close, you thought that the Meathook Massacre was the best card for removal out of 2021. And I agree with you, I think you should always consider anything extra in addition to why you're originally playing the card. So if you're choosing this for removal, it has nothing but upside. If you need removal, you're not necessarily choosing it because it could gain you life, it could drain some life from your opponents. You're playing it because it's -X, and that deals with indestructible creatures, that deals with a lot of creatures out there. If it's a board wipe, you get around Shroud, Hexproof, and granted, I did leave out Dam on this poll because there's only so many cards you can choose. I still feel like if Dam were included in this poll, Meathook Massacre would still be the overwhelming favorite. And I think the reason why people like it over something like Vanquish the Horde is that it does something unique. It is removal on an enchantment ETB. While Vanquish the Horde, while Dam are reliable and that we already know how to predict their usefulness in future decks, that doesn't always interest everybody. So I think Meathook Massacre is definitely the best removal spell for Commander in the year 2021. So thank you all for watching so much. Again, remember to subscribe, click the notification bell, make sure you don't miss out on any of the follow-ups. I will have several different categories. I will be running polls, trying to figure out what you guys think. I went into this video already knowing that Meathook Massacre was going to be a favorite, but I didn't know it would be by that much. So thank you guys for helping out with that. So I will see you again. Commander Void here signing off. Have a wonderful day.